tell us a little bit about what Lazise do.
Lazise is a coaching, facilitation and HR business, briefly. So I provide coaching services to executives, people who've had transformational change, either at work or in their lives. And I facilitate workshops.
Fantastic. So, as a coach, what are some of the main challenges that your clients face? What kind of personal strengths are they seeking to develop?
Okay, so people come to me for various reasons. It tends to be transformation is a big one. So it could either be personal transformation, that they've experienced big change in their lives. And big changes could be the birth of a child, a bereavement, having been off sick for a long period of time, and coming back to work. So basically, something that happens where tomorrow will never be the same as today. So, and it might just be helpful to have some time out with a coach to go through what it actually means to them, to understand themselves a bit better and to get themselves better prepared for the journey ahead.
Sure. And how does Lumina Learning fit into that picture? How did you hear about Lumina Learning, and what were some of the kind of suitable solutions that you found?
So I've talked a bit about sort of the personal transformation, but the other transformation is happening in business, you know. So business transformation could be that there's outsourcing, or there is periods of transformational change where there's a reorganization, a redundancy, maybe a retirement. So those kind of big things are sort of situations where people would come to a coach. And where Lumina would fit in is Lumina gives a fantastic insight into the, personal styles, preferences, traits. It connects with the values, because the kind of theory that I use with coaching, or the techniques, is based on the principles of co-activeness. Co-active being co is in the being and active in the doing.
Sure.
And Lumina really links to the being. So what am I being deep down? Which personas do I have? What traits? And I find it absolutely fascinating. And Lumina provides sort of this neutral, black and white kind of report, which is quite useful when there's a lot of things based on maybe intuition or whatever comes up in a coaching situation.
Sure. And is there a particular Lumina Learning tool that you've gone with, and are there any particular features that really stand out to you?
Okay, so I use both Lumina Spark and I use Lumina Emotion. And I am due to go on the Lumina Leader, because I also really, what has come up with coaching is that the need for 360-degree feedback, which Lumina Leader has. And people sort of ask, what makes a good leader? And I think a good leader is being close to yourself, being authentic, being true to yourself, and knowing what that means. Lumina helps there, sort of to understand yourself a bit better. And having a level of self-awareness can then help with interpreting others and reading others a bit more.
So what was the initial response from your clients, and what was the kind of lasting impacts that you found from using both Spark and Emotion?
Okay, the initial response from our clients has been very enthusiastic, particularly because what Lumina does, it sort of highlights the difference between the underlying persona and the everyday persona, and find that very fascinating. And then also the third level, the overstretched, the persona, so how you behave when you're under pressure. And what's interesting there is actually looking at what's the status quo within a business. How do I feel that certain things, certain traits I might have to dim, and certain things I might want to illuminate? And that's a unique feature of Lumina, this combination of the traits with the personas. And that's, I think Lumina, there's one page when it's a big report, but I think it's page 32, where you have the 24 qualities overviewed by persona. And it's a very powerful page, and it gives an insight, very black and white, well, not black and white because it's in colors, to how people behave and how they move between what they find important, underlying, and how they actually feel they ought to behave on an everyday basis.
Sure. And as a practitioner, in terms of how you've gone about these various projects with clients, what kind of support have you received from Lumina Learning?
Lumina Learning has been brilliant. Laura has been my interface, and Laura has been in touch straight after the workshop. She was aware that I was running a workshop with my clients, So I use it as part of team builds, and I use it as part of for people to get to know each other a bit better, how everybody in the team ticks, sort of personal styles, preferences, and how that impacts the team. So Laura's come in to sort of help me run through some of the potential exercise that I could do, and making sure that all the technical things are right.
Awesome. And in terms of facilitation, how have you gone about using Lumina Learning's tools?
So I use sort of the Lumina Spark as the sort of the foundation tool, and I found it very useful in team builds to get an overview about what everybody's styles and preferences is. It gets people to talk about what they like, what they don't like, their personal do's and don'ts, and that's just a useful dialogue to have, and it really opens up the dialogue within the teams. I found Lumina Emotion very valuable, as emotional intelligence has now become one of the key management skills. So it becoming a top skill, it's useful then to have a tool to measure emotional intelligence, and to look how people react and respond in those situations, to look how they can. And I think that's sort of a Viktor Frankl kind of quote between stimuli and response is a gap where the wisdom is for people to move. I think that's a very valid point, really.
Sure. And lastly, in terms of how Lumina Learning kind of compares to other psychometric offerings on the market, what makes Lumina Learning stand out to you?
So Lumina looks more at how you straddle across introversy and extroversy. That you never just a solid introvert, or a solid extrovert. You can be a bit of both, and it makes it a bit more real. It also prevents people to feel that they're being labeled. So, oh, you're one of those, and so I need to deal with you like that. But actually, it looks at people being unique. And from a coaching point of view, it's extremely helpful to have the personas analyzed, because ultimately, what can you coach? No, what behaviors can you change? And to change behaviors is incredibly valuable to know what values people have and which ones they may be not really let them come out, because maybe they feel it's not the done thing around here, and to have a bit of an overview about what people actually, how they, and I call it almost like the dimmer switch in people, to sort of, as a coach, find the dimmer switch and actually help them to play with that dimmer switch, so they do it more consciously rather than just responding, that they actually react.
Sure. And so, are there any other Lumina Learning tools other than Spark and Emotion that Lazise trying to incorporate into your offering?
Yeah. Well, the next one I'm going to get qualified on is Lumina Leader, because I coach a lot of executives, a lot of leaders, and I think it's very helpful to bring in that tool as well, to sort of, particularly the 360-degree feedback is useful. I always encourage coaching clients to seek feedback before they start on the coaching journey, and also during and after, because to measure success. So in Lumina Leader will be helpful with that, with seeking some feedback and helping people along that journey.
Brilliant. Margriet, thank you so much for coming to talk to us about Lazise.
Okay.
And fantastic to meet you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Dan. Cheers.